It was a stormy night, and my parents were out shopping late. I decided to watch some Scooby-Doo episodes on TV. The screen flickered to life as I wrapped myself in blankets with some popcorn. The storm was surging outside as the wind howled. I flicked my eyes to the window as it hadn't stormed like this in a while. Coincidentally, a similar storm was now going on in the Scooby-Doo episode. Lightning, howling wind surrounding the gang. Yet something seems strangely off. Everyone is very distant from Shaggy. Even Scooby, who was supposed to be by his side at all times. A look of malice dawned heavily on his face as his black dot eyes seemingly withheld deep dark energy that even disturbed me. As the gang splits up, things got darker. The ghost or demon that the gang had been presumably looking for was nowhere in sight, ever since the beginning of the episode. And suddenly, something off-putting clicked in my mind. There was no opening, no music, no chase, no titles. A feeling of dread now crept into me. Things on screen not looking like they normally would. The sky slowly changed from a navy blue to a bloody crimson. The moon was once a crescent shape. It was now bearing a pinkish hue. When the others talked to Shaggy, they sounded somewhat afraid. Meanwhile, his voice was completely normal. He didn't talk like he usually did, though. His normal voice was slightly deeper, and he spoke clearly without the usual like commonly heard in his sentences. When it came time for splitting up, after finding little to no clues, Shaggy was left to roam the mansion alone. Scooby quickly siding with Velma. Fred was with Daphne. As Shaggy lurked around, he found himself in front of a mirror. The reflection was that of a black mass, with glowing red orbs for eyes. He slowly lumbered from the mirror as it shattered. He bumped into Daphne, who was now obviously terrified. Fred nowhere to be seen. He looked down at her as she slowly crawls back from him, pressing herself against an old, worn-down wall. The screen went black as a shrill scream of agony and terror blasted through the speakers, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. When the scene came back, Daphne was lying against the wall. A contorted look of horror and agony spread across her face as her arms and legs were ripped off. Her scalp was missing, her eyes as well. Shaggy's shirt was covered in what looked to be blood as a peal of manic laughter erupted from the speakers, nearly shaking the floor of my house. Shaggy began to walk around. Soon, found Fred and Velma, who had run into one another while searching for Daphne and Scoob. They slowly backed up as they see the blood on Shaggy's shirt. Fred's voice began to quake as he sees this. He looks at Shaggy. Shaggy, why is there blood on your shirt? What did you do? Shaggy just laughed and looked right back at Fred, who's frozen in place by his fear. Velma now hiding behind Fred. Shaggy speaks, but his voice is not his own. It's Daphne's. Oh, God. No. Fred, help me. Fred, please. Fred's face goes pale. Velma starts to cry, nearly falling to her knees. Fred begins to yell in a rage. You killed her. You killed Daphne. How could you? Shaggy's laugh grows louder and more hysterical. Not even a minute later, the screen cuts out. And 2 more screams blast out once more when everything clears. Fred and Velma's bodies lie upon the now bloodied floor. Fred's lips torn off, his necktie bound tightly around his neck, enough to break through the skin. And as for Velma, her glasses lie on the floor cracked, her eyes gouged out as her hands are missing. Shaggy's shirt is nearly drenched with blood. A minute or 2 later, he discovers Scooby, curled up and whimpering in the corner of the abandoned mansion. Lightning cracked through the scene by a window pane. Shaggy looked at his frightened 4-legged companion.
But what's the matter, Scoob? Is this god not worthy enough to walk among you? Your friends have seen 1% of my power. Let's see how you handle a measly 5%.
The screen went bright red as a yowl of pain is heard from Scooby. His silhouette is seen, along with Shaggy's, yet it suddenly disintegrates into a small pile of ashes. His collar tag melts and distorts as the collar itself burns along with the poor dog, and as the scene comes back to normal, there's nothing left but ash. the shards of a dog tag. Shaggy laughs in a psychotic craze. His eye was trembling in pure fear. He suddenly turned his face to the screen slowly. He looks right at me and says,
"Maybe you're a worthy opponent."
Lightning cracked as he disappeared from the screen, and I looked around in a panic, quickly getting up and looking closely at it. I froze. I heard that same laughter coming from behind me. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and once again, it's the end of tonight's video, so I want to tell you all thank you for listening or watching however you hear my voice. Whether it be on YouTube or on the podcast, thank you so much for being here with me. There's going to be a new story every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday night right here on YouTube, or if you're not watching on YouTube, that means the podcast gets updated on SoundCloud, Apple, Google Play, and now the podcast is on Spotify. So if it's easier for you guys to listen there than it is to listen on YouTube, then hey, not such a bad deal, right? As always, any support you guys give towards Mr. Creepypasta Storytime really does help me out. I can actually keep the lights on in the house, and I can get nice little cat treats for Hercules. Okay, sorry for taking up so much of your time. Thank you guys for listening once again, and sweet dreams.